Okay, so episode 3, Power of Persistence, Manifesting Beyond and Letting Go of All Safety Nets. So, Madiha, creator.
Mohammed Musa. I am a trekking enthusiast, mountaineer, and a marketer by profession.
Cool. So, welcome. So, we're going to be having a conversation about something that interests me a lot personally, which is manifestation. The reason being that this concept of manifestation has radically challenged and changed a lot of belief systems that I've held about myself my whole life. So we spend a chunk of our lives identifying very strongly with our bodies, right? Flesh, eyes, ears, hands, 5 senses, and that's who we are. We appear in the world, we respond to the world from a physical realm. What manifestation asks you to do, deliberate manifestation asks you to do, is to think of yourself or to believe that you are, in fact, a soul having a human experience and not the other way around. So, what that means is whatever we create in the world around us is a projection of what we create inside us first. And that means that whichever environment that I'm living in, which I am not in sync with, I'm going to wait for the sirens to pass by. So, this environment included. So, what it tells us is that whichever environment that we're living in, and if we don't like it, we're not in sync with it, it's not pleasing to us, it's disruptive to us, that environment, in fact, is only a reflection of whatever you're feeling about yourself and whatever you're believing about yourself inside us, right? Inside you. And that is at the time that I first exploring this particular concept, which was about 4 years ago, it was frightening but very strangely liberating. Because what that meant for the first time, especially as a woman, is that whatever freedom that I'm looking for, and in whichever way I feel imprisoned, is in fact a thought and a belief that I have here. And every time that I look with my eyes outside and I observe the world, it will only project my feeling of imprisonment and lack of freedom, because that's exactly what it is. It's a mirror. So I remember I started following a couple of really cool life coaches, light workers. And one of them said, if you're looking into the mirror and the reflection is frowning, you're not going to go in and try to poke the reflection and say, can you smile instead? You're going to smile. That's exactly how manifestation works. So whatever you believe about yourself here, you project on the outward world, right?
Yeah.
So once I understood that, I was like, wait a minute. So the point in my life that I began exploring this concept was otherwise known as a tower moment. So I had just gotten divorced. I was working at a great position at a job that I hated from the core of my being because it did not resonate with who I was. I was not staying true to who I was, right? And I needed that job, I believed. So this is my story then. I needed that job because I had 2 kids that I needed to support and a house that I needed to run. And so I was there in that job. So a year into that miserable place that I was in, and miserable here. So it's not about the job, right? I can't blame the job. The cycle of events kind of unfolded in a way where a lot of it became impossible for me to stay in that position and in that office. And so I remember I was feeling especially miserable one day, and I'm sitting in the office. I have the laptop in front of me. I'm running some business numbers. And I don't know what stroke of, lightning struck. But I guess I had been deliberating on that for a while. I called my mother and I said, Amma, अगर मैं आपसे कहूँ कि मैंने पाकिस्तान से बाहर शिफ्ट होना है, what do you think? And she said, she thought for a second because I'd never lived outside the country before. And she said, go for it. I think it's the best thing that you can do for yourself. And so in that moment, Musa, in that moment, no other reality mattered. There was no paycheck that was on my mind. There was no, the reality of what experience do I have. I don't have a specialized job. There was no other factor at play. In that moment, it was just such a pure desire. And I was so clear that I really want to shift abroad. And it was that energy that I believe took me on that really strange path for the next 2 years, where on that day I sent an email after that phone call and I resigned and I sat at home. Now, in that sitting at home, what I also realized was that if I want to take the next step, then whatever is right now is not working for me. That means it has to change. So I was a certain person. Now that certain person had certain interests, certain behaviors. I loved reading, for example, fiction only. I'd never read nonfiction. I loved listening to music with lyrics. I'm a super lyrics person. I was super afraid of water. I'd never stepped anywhere near water for a very, very, very long time. So 3 factors I can remember very clearly. And I said, so these 3 factors I'm going to change about myself, because I am going to now teach my mind to expect different things from me. And then how do I teach my mind is do 3 deliberate things very differently in the way that it's known to act a certain way forever, but this time around I'm going to be different. So I chucked out, packed away all my fiction literature, and I had about 200, 300 books. Because I love literature, I started in fact reading letters that my favorite authors had written, not biographies because I still couldn't bring myself, but completely nonfiction. Music, I switched to classical, like completely instrumental. Listening to the 8 loves bhi kisi cheez ka na ho. And I decided to take swimming lessons,
Nice.
all at the same time, right? And this does not mean that I'm miraculously. So I did speak to my father. I said, listen, can you support me and my 2 kids for 2 years? And he said, I don't know, I'll have to. So he stepped up. I started getting a few consultancy projects. I started training my mind to behave differently and expect unexpected things. And I started writing a book.
Nice.
Okay, so all 4 of these things happened all at the same time. And what was happening inside now, so these are behaviors that I could change, I could control, right? But as a result of me changing or wanting to change these behaviors, what began to happen inside was that I began to get a little bit more confident about the fact that I can create things that I might not be great at, but things which I love doing. So I loved writing, therefore I wrote. I did not like swimming, but I know that I wanted to conquer my fear of swimming more than I did not like swimming. So I was doing that. I fell in love with instrumental, and I fell in love with nonfiction. And in all of this entire space, I started applying abroad. And I remember the first, I want to tell this story because it has like a continuation before I move to you. So I remember I was applying blindly. LinkedIn, just any person would. If you like, आपने एक दिन सोच लिया है 40 साल के बाद जिंदगी में कि हमने बाहर जाना है, तो चलो ठीक है, LinkedIn से शुरू करते हैं. Then I thought of another friend of mine who was in Malaysia, and I said, here's my resume. Could you forward it to somebody? She forwarded it, and then 6 months go by. So in those 6 months, and the reason why letting go of Plan B is so important, or letting go of safety nets is, it's something that I've learned at such a personal. I was committed to shifting abroad to the level that my father could barely afford, supporting me and my kids. I got an opportunity to set up a business with 0 investment. Okay, with what I have now discovered is called sweat equity. And very confidently, and so this is 6 months after me having resigned, right? And I have no prospect of a job. The only thing that I've done in my life is मैं instrumental सुन रही हूँ, non-fiction पढ़ रही हूँ, swimming lessons ले रही हूँ. But ये 3 चीजें करने के बाद, I walk into that office and I said, listen, my friend, I would love to do this business with you, except that I'm shifting. And he said, oh wow, so where are you going? I said, I'm going to Malaysia, because that's the only place I'd sent my resume to. It's like, really? So like, what's the opportunity? I said, I have no idea. So he said, how do you know you're shifting? I said, I'm very clear that I'm shifting. And therefore, I turned down that business opportunity. Another opportunity, it's almost as if the universe kind of tests you, says, okay, really? You want to shift to Malaysia? Let's see how much. Let's see how strong you are in sticking, how stubborn you are. And I'm freaking stubborn. So a second opportunity came in as it was a long-term consultancy project. It needed commit. It was a consultant, but for 2 years. Again, I said, oh, are you open to remote working? And it's like, why? Where are you going? I said, I'm shifting to Malaysia. Oh wow, what's the opportunity? I have no idea. So that was my and it began happening कि मैं अगर क्योंकि I love surrounding myself with pretty things. तो मैं डेकोरेशन किसी शॉप पे जाऊँ जहाँ पे निकनैक्स की शॉप है, मैं बोल या कैंडल स्टैंड उठाने लगती थी एंड इट्स लाइक you know what? No, I already have a lot of things that I need to pack for Malaysia. So I don't think I want to. नहीं हम shift करें वहाँ पे जाके कर लेंगे. So this is the conversation that I began having with myself, with nobody else but myself. So it does begin here first. What do you and the belief is actually the conversation that we have inside. And again, linking back to 3 चीजें सिर्फ change की हैं, and the conversation is a fully confident, I'm shifting to Malaysia. As it so happened, as fate would have it, as the universe had planned it already, as I had planned it already, because my soul is the one in charge right now, because I'm staying true to who I am. I got a call from this amazing company in Malaysia, and they said, you know what, we're recruiting for a super cool position, like, so this is not the happy ending that we're all looking for, huh? Super cool position, which I was grossly like underqualified for, because वो मेरा field ही नहीं था, वो digital marketing थी. तो मैं तो conventional advertising किया सारे, वो digital marketing मतलब मुझे ये पता है कि Facebook कैसे use करना है, उसमें भी filter लगाने के लिए मुझे 2 लोगों की help चाहिए होती है, create mode के लिए भी मुझे support चाहिए होती है. तो so I came on to they said, are you interested? I was like, I'm very, very interested, because I was like destined as born to shift to Malaysia. That's what I said to the HR, to the recruiter and the HR person. So they line up a call for with the managing director of that big digital media house in Malaysia. And I get on a call and he said, so tell me, why are you planning on shifting to Malaysia? I said, because I dreamt about it. I was meditating and this place came to me. And he said, and so this is the managing director of an agency. And he said, I'm sorry, I don't understand. I said, I'm very clear on the fact that I'm going to be there. The reason why I'm clear is that every time that I think of my happy place, I have a balcony in mind. So I had that balcony in mind. Every time that I visualize Malaysia, I have balcony in mind. और उसके अंदर ना मोतिया मैंने उगाया हुआ है. तो उस balcony में तो मैंने खड़े होना ही होना है. अब चाहे it's through your company or ABC company, I'm not sure, but Malaysia is going to happen. So he said, so we got into a conversation, a human conversation, nothing to do with work, with the managing director sitting in Malaysia. And he said, I'll offer you this position. He made the offer, but at that time, with it, he also said that this is now because we've evaluated your portfolio. उनको समझ में आ गई थी कि ज़्यादा technically इसको कुछ पता नहीं है ज़िंदगी में. So he said, we evaluated your portfolio. तो ये जो position है, इस position के लिए offer नहीं है, इसे एक नीचे वाली position के लिए offer है. तो वो जो नीचे वाली position के लिए offer थी, that was not, so that was 4 years junior to my experience, right? I could have said no. I could have let my ego lead and say कि मेरे दोस्त क्या कहेंगे, मेरे peers क्या कहेंगे. It also meant a pay cut from the one that I was earning earlier. It was an associate director's position and I'd been on a director level for like, 5-6 years, not even for a short time. I said yes. I said yes because I said yes.
The right kind of opportunity, not the opportunity, the escape you were kind of sort of looking for to go to Malaysia. Like you were very content that you want to go there, no matter what.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it was a leap of faith. More.
It was a leap of faith, and boy, did that leap of faith pay off. Because when I landed in Malaysia, 3 months into my position, I was promoted. Not in that position, but I was promoted to head as a director my own department. Which did not even exist before. So I I started that department for the first time in that media agency, which is a content production house. Cool. And, that's how I manifested Malaysia. So again, from the belief that whatever I associate with in terms of the physical world or the physical reality is a limiting concept. because if I look outside, I will always find reasons not to. There will always be 10,000 reasons. I have parents to support, children to support. The biggest fear that we have is of losing our livelihood in taking a chance, and of losing our safety nets. And it's a relevant fear. It's a valid fear. And the way, in my experience, one way to overcome or to train yourself to overcome that fear is to teach your mind little by little what it is to do new things or things for the first time. So one thing that really, I think one mantra, two mantras. The first one being a line from a book from one of my very favorite authors. His name is Ben Okri. He's an African-American writer. And I remember reading it when I was 17, 18, but her resume mein meri wo line hai. And the line is, one dream lived till the end of the world can change the fate of the world.
Beautiful.
That, and the second one was, I forget what the second line was. I really forget what the second line was. This one was the one that spoke the most to me. So we teach our mind little by little. Yeah, the second one was, when was the last time you did something for the first time? And and so another thing, by the way, that I had done in the manifestation journey, which is what I call 2 years prior to me shifting to Malaysia, was that sometimes you don't have to do big things. You don't have to go take swimming lessons, but you do have to change your everyday small habits. तो मेरे लिए होता था कि मैं एक ही रोड अपनी बच्ची को स्कूल ड्रॉप करने जाती थी. मैं एक ही रोड started taking different roads every 3, and I would not say अच्छा आज मैंने कौन सी रोड लेनी है. Sometimes it would take me longer. Sometimes it would take me way longer. But I would let myself decide in the last minute what road I'm going to be taking. And it didn't always work out. But what it was teaching my mind was to expect the unexpected. We're not going to play safe anymore. And we're not going to be in our comfort zones anymore. And what being in Malaysia has taught me is invaluable. Nothing in the world, like nothing so skill set, yes, but that's not my heritage from Malaysia. So my heritage is the fact that when we begin to change the beliefs that we hold about ourselves in our mind, the world begins to change with it. And yes, there's a lag. It's almost like ये बहुत quantum speed पे चल रहा है और वो हमारा time and space reality है. The time and space reality, and I have a lot of sympathy for it, takes a bit of time catching up.
Yeah.
Most of us, though, we believe that bit of time catching up is when you give up. And we do. Most of the time it's like हमने ये सोचा, हमने ये सारी चीज़ें कर ली और ये नहीं हुआ. तो फिर अल्लाह की मर्जी होगी. नहीं, मेरी बात सुनो. You gave up. So we are born manifestors. It's not something we learn.
Yeah.
Look at the room is a manifestation of you. Your house, your parents, your relationships are all manifestations of you. So आप तो इसमें कोई नई चीज़ नहीं कर रहे हो.
Exactly.
The only thing that you're doing is taking control of things here so that the things outside begin to respond to you differently. And that for me is the core of deliberate manifestation. But I also know when I spoke to you that you're not a deliberate manifester. You're more of a natural, like more of an unconscious manifester. So talk to me. Tell me about that.
So basically, coming from a lower middle class family, you always have a set of responsibilities. अच्छा पढ़ना है, first आना है, job अच्छी लेनी है, blah 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 blah. And they're like, मतलब weight on you ना, they weigh really big on you कि अच्छा मैं बड़ा हो रहा हूँ. And me, I've been like never a bright student or something, a very mediocre student. I was late in my graduation and everything. तो family pressure and everything, वो देखो तुम्हारा cousin क्या करता है, stuff like that. So that comes in. So for me, it was like 7 people, a group of friends, we decided to go to Fairy Meadows back in like 2012 or 13. हमें पता चला कि अच्छा there's this place called Fairy Meadows, वहाँ से नांगा पर्वत नज़र आता है, one of the biggest mountains in the world. हमने कहा ठीक है, let's go there. हम कुछ ना कुछ करके somehow we reached there. When we got there, I got to know कि there is this place called Base Camp, which is basically the base of operations if you want to climb the mountain. So that was something जो मुझे ignite किया कि I wanna go there, I wanna at least go see that place के how it looks. यहाँ पे वो climbers आते हैं, रुकते हैं, they set up their operation, वो कैसे होता है सारा ये वो. तो हमारे अपने ग्रुप में ही there was like 3 of us were like we should go, 3 of us like कि नहीं यहाँ नहीं जाना, very dangerous something blah blah blah. तो we eventually decided to go there. Midway we found a group of people, middle-aged people. They were coming back and they were like कि आगे ना जाओ, आगे बहुत खतरनाक है, you don't have the medicines, the right trekking equipment, blah blah blah. That was the point जहाँ पे हमारा पूरा group it got one. It was like कि नहीं, अब इनने कहा है कि आगे नहीं जाना, तो अब तो हम सब ने आगे जाना है. तो उधर से our teamwork started. We finally reached the base camp. We stayed the night there. We were the first people in that season to stay the night at the base camp. We came back the next day. तो when I came back the next day ना, जो feeling थी वो cannot be basically described in words. मतलब I had never felt in my life वो वाली feeling, because I've been partying a lot और उस तरह से पीछे से I was doing all that stuff, लेकिन जो वो एक naturally induced feeling थी उस चीज़ की, that was something else. It helped me break like all of my barriers ना, उस तरह से घर की चीज़ें, external pressures. जब मैं वहाँ से I felt free कि मेरे दिमाग में कोई tension नहीं है, कोई कुछ नहीं है, और इस तरह से था कि अच्छा if I've done this ना, अगर ये एक it was a monumental task for me. I'd never done anything of that sort. उससे पहले neither I had ever planned कि मैं ये चीज़ करने जाऊँगा तो मैं ये करूँगा. तो that all happened naturally. उससे what happened कि मेरे all my barriers they just broke. I broke completely free. उसके बाद से मुझे किसी चीज़ का डर नहीं था. उसके बाद से कि अगर मैं लेट हो रहा हूँ पढ़ाई पे, कोई मसला नहीं, ठीक है, that's gonna happen. जॉब नहीं मिलती, कोई मसला नहीं, I'll figure out another way. तो all that negativity जो आपके दिमाग में कर रही होती है ना जंबल आपको, which is basically stopping you from doing stuff which you actually want to do, वो एकदम से सारी उठ के बाहर हुई है. और आई हैड all this positive energy, new plans, new me. I was a completely different person when I came back. मतलब literally I was literally a completely different person. मैं चीज़ें अब different तरह से सोच सकता था, ठीक है, उसको एक नई अप्रोच देख सकता था, क्योंकि on a trek बहुत ज़्यादा चीज़ें होती हैं. Some people are slow, some people walk fast. ठीक है, तो अब I was among the fast walkers उस तरह से पहले से ही. तो जब मैं आगे चल रहा था तो मुझे I realized कि यार if I'm walking like 5 minutes ahead ना, that is motivating for my team. But if I'm like walking 30-40 minutes ahead of them, that is very demotivating for them. So you need to find the right balance for the teamwork उसके अंदर. You're only as strong as your weakest link in a team. तो I learned that, मतलब उस तरह से उस चीज़ों से मैंने वहाँ से बहुत ज़्यादा चीज़ें I get to learn. उसके अलावा I get to learn about के terrain, ये वो, मतलब आप चल रहे हो, अभी ग्लेशियर्स आ रहे हैं, अभी पत्थर आ रहे हैं, तो these reflect आपकी ज़िंदगी के मसले भी उस तरह से कि अभी मेरी ज़िंदगी में ये मसला चल रहा है, I'm walking on rocks, ठीक है, इसको हम एक एग्जांपल कोट कर लेते हैं. फिर जी आगे ग्लेशियर आना है, वो कोई और मसला है. फिर आगे मैंने कोई पास क्रॉस करना है, वो एक और डिफरेंट बड़ा मसला है मेरी ज़िंदगी का. तो द पॉइंट इज़, जब वो मसला आता है आप वहाँ पहुँचते हो और यू फाइंड अ वे टू गेट ओवर दैट थिंग, वट एवर द प्रॉब्लम इज. एंड सो गोज फॉर लाइफ एंड ट्रैक. उस तरह से मेरे लिए फिर एक चीज़ बहुत ज़्यादा अलाइन हो गई उस पॉइंट के बाद से कि दिस इज़ समथिंग, दिस इज़ माई टाइम, दिस इज़ माई फ्रीडम फ्रॉम एवरी थिंग दैट आई डू इन ऑर्डर टू सर्वाइव इन द वर्ल्ड. ये मेरी चीज़ है जो मुझे साल में, आई नीड 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, whatever. I am going to do this for the rest of my life. इसके अंदर I faced problems as well. I was very overconfident after my first trek कि नहीं, अब तो मैं सुपरमैन हूँ, अब मैंने ये कर लिया है, अब तो मैं कुछ किसी चीज़ से रोक ही नहीं सकता. तो I went on another trek. उसके बाद से 2-3 treks के बाद I went to a place called Chattagata Lake in Kashmir. तो that is a very steep inclined trek for that lake. I used to smoke a lot. I used to smoke a pack of cigarettes for मतलब a day उस टाइम के ऊपर. तो what happened कि मुझे सांस चढ़ा बहुत ज़्यादा. I took out a cigarette naturally. I smoked that. I didn't knew कि मैं क्यों कर रहा हूँ, क्या कर रहा हूँ. As soon as I मतलब finished the cigarette, I started walking. तो my basically oxygen levels in my body, they were already reducing after the cigarette. They got really bad. मेरे हाथ पाँव दे लाइक ट्विस्टेड, सांस मुझे नहीं आ रहा था, माई कलर इट टर्न पेल. आई हैड अ फ्रेंड विद मी जो कि मुझे मतलब बिठा रहा था. हम लेटे हुए थे एक जगह पे, आई वॉजेंट कॉन्शियस एट ऑल. मतलब आई वॉज कमिंग इन टू कॉन्शियसनेस, गोइंग आउट ऑफ कॉन्शियसनेस अगेन एंड अगेन. इन बिटवीन दोज जैसे वो फिल्मी बातें होती हैं ना कि आपको सारी ज़िंदगी नज़र आती है, ये है. तो आई रियलाइज दैट डे वो फिल्मी बातें नहीं है, वो नज़र आती हैं आपको, आपकी जो ज़िंदगी रिफ्लेक्ट कर रही होती है आपकी आंखों के आगे. उस सब के बीच में थैंकफुली टू माई फ्रेंड, ही सेव्ड माई लाइफ. उसने मुझे उठाया, ही वॉक मी डाउन. तो जैसे ही मुझे नीचे लेके आया तो मेरा सांस वापस आ गया. एज सून एज मेरा सांस वापस आया तो मेरा मतलब बेहतर हो गया. स्टार्टेड वॉकिंग बाय माई सेल्फ अगेन एंड एवरीथिंग. तो उससे देन आई रियलाइज कि आई वाज स्केर्ड एज वेल, क्वाइट स्केर्ड व्हेन आई गॉट बैक. मतलब आई कुड हैव डाइड उसके ऊपर, एंड इफ आई वुड हैव डाइड ऑन दैट माउंटेन आई वुडंट हैव मेड इट बैक टू माई होम. इवन माई बॉडी कुडंट हैव मेड इट बैक टू माई होम. इट वाज दैट काइंड ऑफ अ प्लेस. तो पहले डर भी था कि शुड आई डू दिस अगेन, दोबारा ये वो. बट देन अगेन फिर यही सोचा कि मसले तो आते हैं ज़िंदगी में. इट डज नॉट मीन यू स्टॉप. इट्स ओनली योर ब्रेन दैट स्टॉप्स यू. द फियर्स आर इन योर ब्रेन, इन हियर, दे आर नॉट
Yes.
आउट देयर.
Yeah.
तो वंस यू ओवरकम दोज फियर्स ना, यू आर एक्चुअली फ्री. यू कैन एक्चुअली फ्लाई. कोई मसला हो रहा होता है, मतलब देयर आर प्रॉब्लम्स ट्रैक के अंदर. इन एवरी माउंटेन यू क्लाइंब देयर गोना बी प्रॉब्लम्स. मतलब you name it, there's gonna be problems.
You can't plan for the
Yeah,
perfect climb.
all you can plan is you can have a really good strategy, a really good plan कि इतने दिन में इतना चलना है, blah blah blah. लेकिन आप मौसम का नहीं कुछ कह सकते, आप बारिश का कुछ नहीं कह सकते. जो एक्स्ट्रा आपको ये चीज़ें रखती हैं, तो that is life as well. कि आप मेरे लिए आप एक नॉर्मल प्लान लेके चल सकते हो कि हाँ मैं आज के दिन में ऐसे 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 करूँगा. लेकिन जो चीज़ें आपके इधर उधर से आ रही होती हैं, यू कैन नॉट प्लान देम कि ये आएंगी तो मैं इसको ऐसे कर लूँगा. दैट इज़ योर एनर्जी, हाउ यू डील विद देम. आज मैं आता हूँ तो मुझे नहीं पता कि कुछ चीज़ें मुझे पता है कि ये होना है, कुछ चीज़ें मुझे कोई आइडिया नहीं कि ये चीज़ें आनी है. लेकिन उसके ऊपर वो करने का कोई फ़ायदा नहीं.
So, what is the safety net that you let go of in your mind in pursuing this passion of trekking?
For starters, it was कि पाकिस्तान में सबसे बड़ा मसला है कि मर जाओगे, कहाँ जा रहे हो, ये है वो.
So you
मिल नहीं आती.
literally let go of a literal safety net.
Yeah, it's like कि खैर है, अगर even if I die ना, even अब आप, क्योंकि कुछ भी हो सकता है, even if you die तो I'll die trying to do something that I really want to do. उस तरह से कि that is something I want to do. कोई अब for another story, जब मैंने शुरू की ट्रैकिंग तो मुझे जोश चढ़ा कि मैं 8000 मीटर पीक्स करूँगा, एटलीस्ट मैं एक करूँगा ज़िंदगी में. आफ्टर लाइक 2-3 years दैट प्लान गॉट कम्प्लीटली शैटर्ड, क्योंकि मेरे साथ बुरे इंसिडेंट्स हुए, ये सारी चीज़ें हुई. आई वॉज मतलब लेट एट एज कि मुझे इस एज से बहुत पहले चीज़ें स्टार्ट करनी चाहिए थी. लेकिन यू कैन गेट मोटिवेटेड इन एनी शेप और फॉर्म. मतलब इट कुड बी अ कोट, it could be a person, it could be a book, it could be a movie. That is up to you. आप कुछ भी उसमें से extract करके आप अपने आप को positive energy feed कर सकते हो. तो we were on a trek in Karambar Lake. So we had this guy, he's a very good friend, Yasir Bhai. He was from US and he had climbed Mount Everest previously. So he was with us on that trek. He wanted to explore Pakistan, so he reached out and he was like कि मुझे भी साथ ले जाओ ये वो. तो we went on a trek. तो उनके साथ आई डिस्कस दिस ना कि आई वांटेड टू क्लाइंब एवरेस्ट, बट आई एम एक्चुअली स्केर्ड ऑफ डूइंग सो. कि आई थिंक आई डोंट हैव द एडिक्वेट ट्रेनिंग एंड आई हैवंट पुट इन द राइट ईयर्स, जिसकी वजह से मैं नहीं कर सकता. तो ही रियली चेंज दैट परस्पेक्टिव इन माई माइंड. ही वॉज लाइक कि क्यों नहीं कर सकते, मतलब व्हाट्स द रिस्ट्रिक्शन. आई वॉज लाइक फॉर स्टार्टर्स फाइनेंशियली. ही वॉज लाइक गेट अ स्पॉन्सरशिप, दैट्स नॉट अ प्रॉब्लम, दैट्स जस्ट अ प्रॉब्लम इन योर हेड. सेकेंडली आई वॉज लाइक कि बहुत मेहनत करनी पड़ेगी, चलना पड़ेगा, नीड टू ट्रेन. तो ही वॉज लाइक कि स्टार्ट ट्रेनिंग. मतलब start training now and you'll be okay to go in like 2 years, next 2 years में you can do it, no problem. तो that really changed कि फिर मैंने दोबारा सोचना शुरू किया कि यार अच्छा ये तो किया जा सकता है, ये इतना बड़ा मसला
Which
नहीं
year
है.
was this?
This was 2 years ago. तो फिर मैंने सोचना शुरू किया कि ये तो मैं कर सकता हूँ, अब इतना बड़ा इशू नहीं है जितना मैंने अपने दिमाग में बनाया हुआ है. Then there came out this movie from a Nepali, trekker. His name is Nirmal Purja, basically. So he's a British Nepali person who works in the British Army, and he basically left his job in the army, left the pension, and went after his dream of climbing the 14 highest peaks in the world in the fastest time. and he only started climbing when he was 29. ठीक है, तो that was something जो मेरे खून में से गुजर गया कि यार मतलब crazy. He climbed 14 peaks, which previous record was 7 years and some months, 8-9 months. He did those in like 6 months and 7 days.
Oh wow.
That was like record breaking, and मतलब on all levels. जो पुराने हाई क्लास माउंटेनियर्स थे उनको भी नहीं यकीन आ रहा था कि ये किस तरह हो सका है. जब उसने प्रोजेक्ट शुरू किया उसको कोई सीरियसली नहीं लेता था, बट बाय द टाइम ही एंडेड द प्रोजेक्ट ही वाज द बिगेस्ट माउंटेनियर इन द वर्ल्ड राइट नाउ. तो उसकी एक बेसिकली लाइन है, गिविंग अप इज नॉट इन द ब्लड. तो दैट रियली स्टेड विद मी कि इफ यू गिव अप योरसेल्फ ना तो फिर तो कुछ भी नहीं हो सकता. बट इफ यू डोंट गिव अप तो फिर there are like a million possibilities.
I love this line of giving up yourself. So I'm going to add something to it, which is giving up on yourself.
Yeah.
So I feel like that is the concept of safety nets is something that we create because we are keeping a caveat for ourselves to give up on ourselves. And so, for example, this Nepalese guy, the one who went to climb mountains, quit. He burnt all of his bridges to do what he wanted to do. There was no other plan in his mind. No. And the only reason why most of us create plans, and it's not an easy thing to do not create plans, because हमारी especially in this culture upbringing ये है कि अगर वो नहीं काम करना तो backup plans तैयार रखो. तो वो जो backup plan है is a safety net that teaches us that it's okay to give up on your dreams. It's okay to not do what you want to do, because there's an outer God who's sitting there and who's making things happen or not happen for you. तो आपकी तो कोई responsibility है ही नहीं. आपका ख्वाब है, उसके पीछे आपने जाना है. वो अगर ख्वाब पूरा नहीं हुआ, are you brave enough to take responsibility of the fact it didn't happen because something else happened? It didn't happen because you gave up on yourself. Now, giving up on yourself can mean many different things. It could mean that you stopped trying and you changed a path. Giving up on yourself also means that you tell yourself that it was never meant for you to begin with. It was not your path to begin with. It's not, oh, you're not as passionate about it as you thought you were. When you tell yourself these things, what happens over the years, because I've told myself these things, I now have the courage to introduce myself as a writer and a poet first. But for the longest time, I used my visiting card from a company to introduce myself, because that was the safety net that I had. Who I really was is a writer. Who I really was is a poet. But because I had given up on that for the fact that I didn't feel I was worthy enough to receive the beauty that comes with being, for me, the beauty that comes with being a writer and being a poet. I was not worthy enough to receive it. So I kind of put that on the back end and I said, ye main hu. But the moment, so the giving up on yourself sometimes quite literally means that you're not being yourself.
Yeah.
And I've lived many years not being myself. It is a deeply unhappy, deeply unfulfilling space. And it gives, that's where depression rises from. That's where anxiety comes from. Because you're constantly imagine that you spend your whole life on a stage, in a costume, rehearsing dialogues, reading scripts. That's your life. None of this is you. So yes, you could be changing costumes from one act to the other. Yeah. You could be borrowing scripts from one act to the other. In those brief moments where the real you comes out, that real you is so angry and it's so upset with not being there often enough that you don't even like the real you anymore. So you get more comfortable in being the jester or being that really powerful actor or whichever role that we've chosen to play. Being the party person, being the person who's like, whatever role you've chosen to play. It's not in that injustice to ourselves. When our real self comes out and the real self is so angry for a reason, we end up disliking ourselves for a reason. That's when we don't want to get out of bed. That's when we get into, we need medication. That's when when you don't give up on yourself, it's your first step to reclaiming who you are. And so safety nets stop us from doing that. I feel I believe it's a cop out. When I shifted having sold most of everything that I owned, except for my house. I sold everything, like AC, fridge, furniture तक बेच दिया, jewelry बेच दिया. I was like, मैंने जब आना ही नहीं है वापस. This is not the kind of stuff I'm going to wear in Malaysia, and I was never planning. I'm back, so that's another episode and another story on how it happened. But I was so committed. I was so committed to being there not because it came naturally to me. How does it come naturally to me? It doesn't come naturally to me. But I was clear that मैंने जो जिस तरह पहले 35 साल या in those 38 years away that I've played those characters, I'm not going to be that character anymore. And for the first time, I am going to choose to believe in myself first. And when I did that, my parents, who are very conservative in their, as all our parents are, because their first instinct is to protect us, how they started believing in my dream with me. My friends who were complete skeptics started believing in the dream. My son, he's a teenager now. He was going through his teen years then also, just 2 years ago. He was going through his teen years and he was terrified because this is the only home he'd ever known. And he said, how can you be so cruel? So this is the conversation that I'd had with my son. How can you be so cruel to uproot us all and shift us all to another place where we know nobody? I'm at the critical time of my life. How can you be so selfish? And when he saw 6 months into it, and the only thing that I would say to him was, Asad, I promise you, I don't know why. It's almost in spite of myself. Even if I want to, I can't let go of this anymore. And 6 months, and when I did get that job offer from Malaysia, and I sat him down, I said, okay, look, you have a choice. You have your nani nana here. You have everything. You have your house here. You live here. I'll come and visit you as often. Mari behan aur main bahar chale jate, you said. And he said something so beautiful. He said, I believe in what you believe in. And and this is my teenage son, they don't talk like that. They're such, I can't even use the word. They're just not people. They're not people. They're borderline inhuman people. But he said, I believe in what you believe in. If you believe this is right for you, then let's try it. And so my full of teenage angst son believed in me because I believed in me. So the other cop out is कि किसी ने मेरे पर यकीन नहीं किया तो बहुत ट्रेजेडी. भाई नहीं, आपने अपने पर यकीन नहीं किया.
For this specific reason, I have a tattoo on myself stating these are lyrics by a band called Bayan. दूर है देर लगेगी पर मंजिल ये जाएगा रास्ता. So what our safety nets are, I believe that they keep changing as well. You overcome some of your safety nets, नए safety nets आ जाते हैं.
So true, oh my God.
After every phase of your life, you'll have some other safety nets. So this is something which is very private to me. That is why I have placed at a place कि नजर भी ना आ सके ना ज़्यादा लोगों को. It is something which is actually for me only. So this just reminds me कि यार जो भी है जितना मर्जी टाइम लगेगा, do your thing. दूर है देर भी लगेगी लेकिन you're gonna reach your destination. तो इस तरह की सेफ्टी नेट्स और ये सारी चीज़ों पे फोकस नहीं करना. They're gonna come, they're gonna go. Do your thing. If you're doing your thing and you're like satisfied doing your thing, कि हाँ मैं ये ठीक कर रहा हूँ, मुझे लगता है
कि क्योंकि अंदर से आपको पता होता है.
Exactly.
अंदर से आपको पता,
अंदर से आपको हमेशा पता होता है कि आप कहाँ काम खराब कर रहे हो या जो भी. तो अगर आपको पता होगा कि मैं सही कर रहा हूँ और ये बिल्कुल सही जा रहा है, तो फिर आपको फिक्र करने की ज़रूरत नहीं होती. Because you eventually, if you're on the right path, you're gonna reach there. Somewhere, someday, you're gonna reach your destination and you're gonna find a new destination.
लेकिन मेरी बात सुना, इतना आसान नहीं है सेफ्टी नेट्स को ना साइड पे रखना. Because so I've been a planner my whole life also. हाँ, मैंने मतलब मेरे planner by job description, so strategy and planning. तो मेरे पास तो to-do lists, काम की अलग, घर की अलग, जिंदगी की अलग. Planners, Excel sheets. So that had been my life. So letting go of safety nets is not something that you like. And I know that. I know how it's one of the most difficult things that you'd have to do. And I love what you said about how those safety nets keep changing. So, and I think most of our journey in whatever we set out to do, and it doesn't have to be one big thing. And maybe you have 5 different big things, but each time you will encounter a different safety net that you have already placed for yourself. And so when we say we don't create safety nets, हमने बहुत बचपन से हमारे फॉर्मेटिव ईयर्स में हमने सीख लिया है, हमारे दिमाग ने लर्न कर लिया है कि कौन से 7 सेफ्टी नेट्स आर एब्सोल्युटली सुपर इम्पॉर्टेंट टू मदीहा। तो अब जो मेरे 5 डिफरेंट या 6 डिफरेंट लाइफ इवेंट्स होंगे बिग वाले, बाकी तो एवरीडे होते रहते, वो 6 डिफरेंट लाइफ इवेंट्स इसलिए होंगे बिकॉज मदीहा डज नॉट नो वन लाइफ इवेंट विल ओनली शो मी वन सेफ्टी नेट. So the safety net that I let go of when it came to Malaysia was how to in a very focused way, keep my mind on a goal which is not human. It's a simpler manifestation. आपको कोई चीज़ चाहिए which is not human means that it will not react, it will not respond, it will not bounce back and punch you in the face. These are events that they're not emotional. Malaysia is not an emotional being. So every time I think of Malaysia, it's it was easy for me to imagine the beautiful side of it, to plant motia on my balcony, to walk on the towards the subway with a cup of coffee in my hand. It was easy for me to do that. This phase of my life is showing me the safety nets that I've placed around relationships. And ironically, Musa, this just came to me yesterday, and it's been so hard for me to encounter this because here I am showing up for my podcast under the banner of staying authentic to myself. And what I've realized that I have not expressed my own needs and my wants and my desires to the closest relationships in my life because I don't believe that I'm worthy of expressing them. And if I express them, then I will lose those people. So I have a safety net where बातें मुझसे जितनी मर्जी करा लो, philosophy मुझसे जितने मर्जी झड़वा लो. When it comes to relationships, expectation मेरी बहुत high है. बोलना मैंने कुछ नहीं है. खुद ही ना बोल के, खुद ही disappoint होके, खुद ही shut away करके और खुद ही I leave. This has been my entire pattern in relationships. So my safety net is a silence of a different kind, which is here. I have put a safety net between what I really want as a woman and how much I'm willing to ask for. So I think 4 days ago, I posted on the Ordinary Courage page this beautiful, because I had अब मुझे समझ आ गई है तो अब पूरी दुनिया, पूरी यूनिवर्स मुझे वही दिखाएगी जो मुझे सुनना है, because that's just its role. So I deliberately randomly came across this quote of from a children's book, of course. तो उसमें एक बच्चा horse से पूछ रहा है, so horse, what's the bravest thing that you have ever said? And you know what the horse replied? Help. I've never asked for help. And so as a result, what's happened, the safety net is पूछा ही नहीं, किसी से कुछ नहीं मिलेगा. But I've never asked for help. And so I've been loneliest in relationships, not because of, and I mean intimate relationships, familial relationships, within friends also. Never asked for help. I've just shown up as a person who expects a lot without saying anything, gives a lot, expects something but will not ask. And then in the end, how I would label myself as would be, I can do this alone. I don't need anybody. I'm a lone rider. I'm like the lone wolf. Look at me conquering the world. And all of these things have happened. But I've been so alone inside. So that is a new kind of safety net, I believe, which would not have been revealed to me in Malaysia, because Malaysia was safe for me for a different reason. I was away. I was away from all my triggers. I was away from my family, from my friends, from the society, everything that I've always known. It was a different kind of... So, एक सेफ्टी नेट से हट के मैं मलेशिया गई और वहाँ पे और पता चला कि मलेशिया एक और सेफ्टी नेट है. तो जब मुझे वो पता चला मलेशिया और सेफ्टी नेट, तो मैंने कहा वापस चलो. सेफ्टी नेट्स के साथ नहीं रहना. Safety nets and I will not be riding the same boat anymore.
I think that is what safety net says about ना कि आप एक चीज़ कॉन्कर करते हो, आपको अगली चीज़ मिल जाती है, क्योंकि that is life according to me. कि अगर अगली कोई नई टास्क या कोई अगला चैलेंज नहीं आएगा तो ज़िंदगी वहाँ पे रुक जाएगी. स्टेगनेंट जिंदगी तो नहीं हो सकती. इट नीड्स टू कीप मूविंग एंड मूविंग एंड मूविंग, एंड इफ इट कीप्स मूविंग तो उससे आपको नए चैलेंजेस आएंगे. नए चैलेंजेस के साथ नए सेफ्टी नेट्स, आपके पुराने सेफ्टी नेट्स होंगे जिनको ब्रेक करके आप नए चैलेंज में जाओगे. फिर अगले चैलेंज के लिए आपके पुराने फिर एस्टैब्लिश सेफ्टी नेट्स होंगे जो
बिल्कुल.
उस चैलेंज के होंगे. तो इन माई केस मेरा पहला जो मुझे फील हुआ था ना कि मेरा सेफ्टी नेट फॉर एनी बडी, आई थिंक इट्स योर फादर, योर बिगेस्ट सेफ्टी नेट. उस तरह से ना कि आप डिपेंड करते हो कि ये मेरा बाप है, मैं जो मर्जी करूँगा, ही इज़ फीडिंग मी, ही इज़
He has
गेटिंग मी
my back.
एजुकेशन एंड एवरीथिंग. जो भी होता है इट्स अ नेचुरल थिंग. तो व्हेन माई फादर डाइड ना, तो वी वर, मतलब माई मॉम शी वाज क्राइंग, और उस तरह से माई सिस्टर्स वगैरह. तो आई वेंट अप टू हर, आई हग्ड देम, माई सिस्टर्स एंड माई मदर, एंड आई वाज लाइक कि आप टेंशन ना लें, अभी मैं हूँ ना. तो जब मैं वो बात कर रहा था ना, आई वॉज नथिंग एट दैट टाइम. आई वॉज अ स्टूडेंट, मैं कुछ नहीं करता था. लेकिन बस पता नहीं क्यों मैंने बात की कि आप क्यों टेंशन ले रही हैं, कि अभी मैं हूँ, कुछ नहीं होगा, देखी जाएगी. ये मेरी अपनी ही बात मुझे, मतलब इट ऑल्सो हॉन्ट्स मी कहूँगा, ठीक है, लेकिन मतलब इट ऑल्सो मोटिवेट्स मी कि जब
Yeah.
मैंने ये बात की थी तब मैं लिटरली मैं कुछ भी नहीं था. लेकिन अब मैं एटलीस्ट मतलब 50 to 60% अपनी जिम्मेदारियां निभा सकता हूँ जो मुझे 100% निभानी चाहिए. आई एम केपेबल ऑफ डूइंग एटलीस्ट 50% ऑफ दोज. तो विच इज़ समथिंग कि आपको पुश करने के लिए आपको कर मोटिवेटेड रखता है कि मतलब फैमिली है, यू हैव फ्रेंड्स. तो आई बिलीव यू रियली नीड टू डिपेंड ऑन देम. मेरा एग्जैक्टली आई हैड दिस इशू.
Oh, I'm learning.
आई नेवर यूज टू ओपन अप टू पीपल उस तरह से कि मेरे दिल में ही बात रहेगी. अगर मैं किसी दोस्त से सड़ा हुआ हूँ, कोई मुझे बुरी बात लग रही है, तो मैं कभी भी नहीं बोलूँगा जाके उस तरह से. इवन नाउ अभी भी मैं मोस्टली मैं उस बारे में बात ही नहीं करता. आई जस्ट वेटेड कि बस खुद ही दम जाए, ख़त्म हो जाए, बात सारी ख़त्म हो जाए. बट विच इज़ रॉन्ग, विच आई फील कि अगर आप ये करो तो नेचुरली डिस्टेंसेस आना शुरू हो जाते हैं. आई फेल्ट दिस डिस्टेंस विद माई फैमिली कि अब मैं एक प्रोफेशनल उसके अंदर निकल गया हूँ. मैंने सपोर्ट करना है, मैंने ये करना है, मैंने वो करना है. उसके अंदर मैंने लूज कर दी जो मेन एसेंस होती है फैमिली की, विच इज़ लाइक लव विच हैज़ नो मीनिंग. उस तरह से कि यू बी देयर विद देम विदाउट एनी सॉर्ट ऑफ के कुछ मिल रहा है, कुछ हासिल करना है या नहीं. इट्स जस्ट योर फैमिली. तो एन ईयर अगो इस तरह करके मुझे रियलाइज़ हुआ. आई वॉज इन माई रूम, मुझे नींद नहीं आ रही थी रात को, और आई वॉज स्टेयरिंग अप द वॉल. और बस मुझे उस पॉइंट पे रियलाइज़ हुआ कि आई एम एक्चुअली अब ज़्यादा दूर फ्रॉम माई फैमिली देन आई यूज टू बी. ठीक है, विद डूइंग एवरीथिंग जो मैं पहले नहीं भी करता था. कि ज़्यादा चीज़ें करके भी अब मैं अपनी फैमिली से ज़्यादा दूर हूँ. देन दैट इज़ द टाइम व्हेन आई स्टार्टेड टू टेक out time for my family. कि मैं शाम को घर जाऊँ, I make sure I eat food with my mom.
But okay, thank you for being here. I think what I love about this entire conversation is the fact that it is wonderful being a human being. Okay, no, being a soul having a human experience, because it's something new that we learn about ourselves every day if we are interested. बल्कि मुझे तो पिछले काफ़ी दिनों से ये हुआ है कि my God, I'm the most interesting person that I know, because I'm genuinely like, there's so much that I'm just finding out about myself that I've not known my whole life. So I really like spending time with myself. It's like, अच्छा अब ये कैसे हुआ, ये कैसे हुआ. It's wonderful. It's wonderful being alive. It's wonderful being able to see yourself make different decisions, and it's wonderful being able to see yourself grow. At least for me, just grow and what I say to myself very often is like, Madhya, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of how far you've come, and nobody else sees it. Well, they do, but not so much. You know, there is no degree that I'm being awarded. There's no bonus that I'm getting. There is no designation hike. But my God, Musa, the distance that I've traveled, and the progress that I've made here, there's no equivalent of that in the world. And there's so much to be done, but I just want to take a moment to be really proud of how far I've come already. And I think in many ways, most of the people that I'm interacting with, how far they've come already. So
for me, I'm just gonna sum it up like life is a beautiful experience.
It is.
And you're the person who's gonna make it beautiful, because no one else is going to do it for you.
Yep.
Because it's your brain which stops you from anything or everything you want to approach, do, or anything. So you yourself like need to push yourself कि आपने कुछ achieve करना है, नहीं करना. It's a beautiful experience. Just experience life. while it comes at you.
You learn.
Yeah,
You learn.
It's a learning experience.
It is, and it's a beautiful learning experience, because when you see yourself, I don't know, not making the same choices that have ended in the same consequence, it's a proud moment also.
It is.
Great. So thank you for being here,
Thank you.
and we will just keep sitting, pretend that we are having a really interesting conversation. Okay.